Minister Theresa May is calling for an early election in June. She's challenging the opposition to support her call in Parliament tomorrow.
I have only recently and reluctantly come to this conclusion. Since I became Prime Minister, I have said that there should be no election until 2020. But now I have concluded that the only way to guarantee certainty and stability for the years ahead is to hold this election and seek your support for the decisions I must take. And so tomorrow, I will move a motion in the House of Commons calling for a general election to be held on the 8th of June. That motion, as set out by the Fixed Term Parliament Act, will require a 2/3 majority of the House of Commons. So I have a simple challenge to the opposition parties. You have criticised the government's vision for Brexit. You have challenged our objectives. You have threatened to block the legislation we put before Parliament. This is your moment to show you mean it, to show you are not opposing the government for the sake of it.
All right, so let's cross now to London. Our UK correspondent Natalie Powell is there live. Natalie, this is a shock statement. Many people saying they're really startled by this suggestion. The question is, though, why now?
Yeah, it certainly is a shock decision. Theresa May really doing a U-turn on everything that she's previously said. In fact, back in the beginning of March, Downing Street denying that there would be any kind of snap election called for. Now, the reason for this, she says, is to do with one thing, and that's Brexit. Theresa May is the Prime Minister now tasked with carrying out Brexit over the next 2 years, but it would appear that she is coming up with a lot of opposition in Parliament. And remember, in order to get a Brexit bill passed in 2 years' time following the negotiation period, she will need to pass an Act of Parliament through the Parliament and get the majority of votes on that legislation. She says at the moment there are too many divisions. We've heard that the Labour Party is planning on blocking a number of things that are for Brexit that the UK Prime Minister wishes to negotiate. We know, of course, that the Scottish National Party as well is very anti-Brexit, and Theresa May feels that this is the right time to gain a larger majority in Parliament in order to make that Brexit procedure much easier for her government. Now, at the moment, she has a majority of just 17 in Parliament, but according to the latest opinion polls, that lead could be much greater if she called for a general election. Why? Well, one of the reasons for that is that the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has seemed fairly unpopular in recent times. So it does appear at the moment that the Conservative Party feels in order to push through their Brexit agenda, this will be the best possible outcome. But first of all, she needs to get a snap election passed in government. They will be voting on that here in the UK tomorrow, and she needs a 2/3 majority from Parliament in order for her to call for this snap election.
So how likely then are those opposition parties to actually agree on this, given that they could lose support in this vote if it takes place?
Well, if we listen to what Theresa May had said in this speech, she's really challenging these other parties, saying to them, you've got to put your money where your mouth is at this stage. If you think that you can win the next general election and therefore have the majority of support from the British public, then you won't oppose this snap election because there's no reason to. But of course, if we look at the opinion polls that have come out in recent days and weeks, she has had a large majority over the opposition Labour Party. One poll putting her 21 points in the lead of her opposition, Jeremy Corbyn. So really, it is one of those things that the Prime Minister is suggesting, that the Parliament cannot block this or oppose this, or they will certainly be suggesting that they believe that she could have a much larger majority in this. In addition, though, what we're hearing from other political parties is that they are really seeing this as an opportunity to win back support. Now, remember the Brexit vote. 48% of the country voted to remain, 52% voted to leave. So we're talking very, very small margins here. If the Conservative Party of Theresa May is seen as the party pushing through Brexit, then perhaps 48% of the country who wanted to remain in the EU will see this as a reason to perhaps vote for another political party, given that that may then stop or certainly slow down the Brexit process.
So what's been the reaction on the ground from ordinary citizens about this call?
Well, it has come as a real surprise to most people. As I've said, Theresa May saying for many, many months now, since she took office, of course, back in July, following on from the resignation of David Cameron, that she wouldn't be calling for a snap general election. And one of the reasons is that she was far too busy trying to get her government to begin this Brexit negotiation process. So it really has come as a big surprise. The last general election, of course, just in 2015, we were expecting the next one to be in 2020. It's coming a lot sooner than that, June the 8th. And really, there's going to be some big decisions from the UK public on who they should vote for. Theresa May is a fairly popular Prime Minister, it has to be said, but will people vote tactically if they want to remain in the EU? That is really the big question. So a real surprise that this has come through. In fact, nobody knew that it was taking place until about an hour before she announced this. Downing Street saying that the Prime Minister was going to announce something but wouldn't say what it would be. So it's come as a real shock to very much the ordinary person here in the UK.
And any reaction from opposition parties as yet?
There certainly has been. So Labour opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn has given a pre-recorded statement saying that he sees this as an opportunity to get more seats in Parliament for his party. Of course, there are a number of clashes talking about grammar schools and things like that we've seen recently in Parliament. Jeremy Corbyn really believes that he is the man to get away from divisions in society. He says the Conservative Party have made the rich richer and the poor poorer, and that what he is putting forward is a much more equal society to bring people back on the same level. So that will be really his campaign promise up until the 8th of June. And we've also heard from Tim Fallon, who is the leader of the Liberal Democrats Party. Now, they lost an awful lot of seats following the 2015 election. They lost a great deal of seats in Parliament as a result of that. So he now sees it as an opportunity to make sure that his party are campaigning better than perhaps they did in 2015, so that they will get much more of a say in Parliament. As for the Scottish National Party, and they have really been a thorn in the side of Theresa May about Brexit, because Scotland actually voted overwhelmingly in favour of remaining in the EU. Well, they see this as an election for England and Wales, nothing to do with Scotland, because of course the Scottish National Party are very popular there and have received the majority of votes from in Scotland. So they really see this as an election that really doesn't concern them, and they will potentially still remain a thorn in the side of Theresa May, even if she does get this snap election and she does get a larger majority than she currently has now.
All right, thanks very much for that. Appreciate it. Our UK correspondent, Natalie Powell.